Hello there, welcome back to the end of year review that I do every year. I didn't manage to get a 4K camera, but hopefully my quality is a little bit higher than it has been in the previous videos. I can't guarantee it though, it's still a little bit grainy, but hey ho. Yes, I am a little bit late than I'd like to be because I have been very busy with work and other things and I haven't really had the time to come and make a video that's going to take about 35-40 minutes to do. But we're going to go through the games that we played this year on the channel and other things that have been going on in my life and that sort of normal stuff. I'm recording this on the 16th of January and it's going to come out on the 16th of January, so it's as live as you really ever get me, okay? And of course I'm having my haircut tomorrow. Apparently this was the same last year. Who knows? Okay. So, first thing I want to talk about is the subscriber number. It's a metric that I'm not particularly bothered about. I'm not the sort of creator and never will be, I promise, and if I ever do, bring this up to me and tell me off. I'm never going to be the sort of creator that panders to you and says that you need to like and subscribe the video all the time. It's just not what I'm about. It's not what I want to do. It's not who I am. And so it's not something that I'm ever going to make you do. But saying that, I am still getting an increase in viewership, so thank you for that. Compared to last year where I had 343 subscribers, I've now got 422. So that is a 23% increase compared to last year. That's pretty good. We're happy with that. And especially, like I said, because I don't market myself and I don't collab and I don't try and put myself out there in any sort of way, still having nearly an extra 80 people through just natural finding my stuff, pretty cool. So I'm happy with that. Thank you very much for everyone who does watch, and thank you to everyone who writes comments and watches the stuff all the way through and things like that. I do appreciate it. Okay, but yeah, that's enough about that. Let's talk about the games that we've played throughout the year and what I think about them. Like last year, we'll have a picture-in-picture, and I'm doing it all in one take as I always do. Okay, so started the year strong. January 1st, we started with Super Mario RPG the remake, and we played that from January 1st until January 15th. Now, I've obviously played Mario RPG before. I never played it in a legitimate way though. When I first played it back in the day, I played it on a Super Nintendo emulator, and that was because, you know, the cartridges were like £100. You couldn't get them. And at the time that I would have been interested in getting it for the Super Nintendo, I was about 14. So I didn't have the money to pay for it anyway. So I emulated it, as probably most people did. Then, when the remake came out, I thought, oh, I've got a legitimate way to actually play the game. And they're remaking some stuff without, you know, destroying the soul of what the game actually is to begin with. And I think they achieved what they set out to do. I hope that the fact it sold really quite well stokes the interest for an actual sequel, or like, not, you know, maybe not with Gino and Mallow and all these guys, but another Mario RPG where you have characters that are outside of the Mario sort of universe and are interesting, and you get like a more traditional turn-based RPG style, because it did sell pretty well, especially for an RPG which as a genre doesn't sell that well unless it's Final Fantasy VII. So it sold pretty well. And I think it was a very good remake. I think it was faithful to the original. It changed some stuff without changing too much. I liked the extra Kulex boss fight, the 3D version of him. I think the difficulty was still too easy, but the original game was too easy as well. I think they kept everything the same to what should have been kept the same, and they tweaked little bits and pieces which I felt were good to tweak. But overall, I think it was a very good experience, and I would recommend it to people to play it, because I think if you like RPGs, or you are new to the genre and you want something that's not going to bust your balls too hard or need you to grind for a million years to win, Mario RPG is a pretty good starting point for that. Okay, cool. Then after that, we moved on to Ark the Lad, with January 16th until January 30th. Someone recommended it to me. That's it. Sometimes someone writes a comment and says, I think you should play this, and that's enough for me to play it. I had never heard of it before. I knew it was a strategy game because I looked up what the game was about, and that was it. I thought, okay, why not? Sure. And I think that's a game that's interesting. I think it is the sort of the opposite, where it's quite grindy, but if you know it's grindy going into it, you can sort of accept that it's grindy. And it's a game of its time. Some of its humor, some of its stuff in it is a little bit, for today's sensibilities, a little bit awkward. But it's not something that personally bothers me. So I'm fine with it. But some people might not be fine with it, put it that way. Okay. But as a game, I think it has its difficulty spikes, and sometimes it can be really hard or really easy. And if you play it for enough, everything becomes really easy, and it sort of breaks the balance of the game. But as a overall product, I think it's quite cool. I like the infinite dungeon, or it's not infinite, but the 100 floor or 50 floor dungeon. And I liked the fact that the characters are interesting and they do interesting things. They're a bit tropey, but it's interesting, and I'm not that bothered about that sort of stuff. I like the game to play well. That's the main thing I'm interested in. So yeah, I thought that was a good game, and it is a product of its time, and I might be interested in playing number 2 at some point where the story continues. But I know after that people think they get a bit weird. I don't know. But yeah, so sometimes if you leave a comment saying, oh, have you played this? I wonder if you'd like that. Yeah, I might try it. Why not? As I'm working more now as a full-time tutor, I have decisively less time than I did even when I was a support assistant before. So finding the time to make videos has begun to get a lot harder. It's not impossible, but I'm trying to just get by from week to week, rather than I used to have like month-long, 2-month-long backlogs where I could just pump out videos and not worry about it. Now I'm sort of trying to find time in the week to make videos happen. But I'm still committed to doing it. I've made 365 videos last year. I intend to make 365 videos this year, just the same. And as long as people keep watching them and they like them, I'm going to keep doing it. So it's never going to become my main job. Trying to hold on to that pipe dream is a waste of time. Unless by some miracle something kicks off and becomes viral, or, lots of people start hearing about it. It's unlikely I'm going to be able to make it my profession. But I like doing it. It's something to do. I like playing games. It gives me an excuse to play games where I might not have done otherwise. And it's something I enjoy. So yeah, but to go back to the game, definitely interesting, but it has its quirks and it's a product of its time in gameplay, and it's anachronistic sort of things, but also in its sort of themes and the way it portrays those themes could be a little bit awkward for some people. But yeah, moving on to something that's awkward for a different reason. Borderlands 3, after starting from January 31st until May the 11th, it's 100 episodes long, so it's one of the longest series I did of the year, by a way. And Borderlands 3 is a game that's also a product of its time in a different way. Its humour is very 2010s, I would say. Very 2010s, a bit more toilet humour even than Borderlands 2, which was already more toilet humour than Borderlands 1. The writing is interesting, but I can certainly see why people disliked the general plot. I didn't mind Ava as a character. A lot of people hated her, but just fine with me. I can see why people sort of didn't like how she was the solution to everything. It's a bit weird. And the overall gameplay hasn't innovated enough since Borderlands 1 to really make them stand out as their own unique games. There's only so many times you can say to someone that you've got a bajillion million guns before the actual gameplay loop becomes stale, because they aren't that unique. Even the uniqueness isn't that unique. Every other gun is a gun that you throw at someone, right? Or has a slightly different laser sight. That doesn't count as an entirely different gun, okay? So in that sense, it's a little bit disappointing, but I enjoyed my time with it. And when Borderlands 4 comes out, I'll play that too, just the same, because I've played all the others in the series, so why wouldn't I? And I know that some of the writers for Borderlands 4 I know of. I don't know them personally, but I know of them, and I know that they're good writers, so maybe they can bring the humour back into a level that's actually funny, and the writing to be a bit more cohesive, and the story to be interesting and that kind of thing, rather than just mimetic and always just referencing the latest trend of the time period, which does age the game quite a lot when those things are no longer relevant, which, as we get further and further in time, gets faster and faster and faster, where these things lose relevance. If they reference Hawk Tuah, for example, by the time the game comes out, no one's going to care, and it's going to be cringy. And it would be cringy even if they did it now. So why not try and make actual humour that is timeless, in the sense that it's always going to be funny? And you're never going to please everyone. The humour is juvenile. Well, that's part of the series. That is inherent to the game. So trying to fix that and make it all seriously grimdark wouldn't work, but there's a balance to be found with that. And I think Borderlands 3 kind of got the balance a little bit wrong, but mostly was fine. And that game, I enjoyed it. And again, I played all the DLCs. I couldn't have disliked it that much, right? And I think it was worth playing. Okay, and that brings us to May 11th. So I've already passed my birthday, into my 30s now. So this year I turned 30, so I'm now officially an old man. And we're going into SteamWorld Dig with May the 12th until May the 19th. So in a week, I've finished SteamWorld Dig, and this began my year-long, and it will continue this year, where every other game I play is a SteamWorld game, unless something comes out straight away that is so relevant that I want to play it straight away, which we'll talk about in a minute. SteamWorld Dig, for those who don't know, is a sort of Castlevania or Metroidvania style game where you get upgrades and you get to explore deeper and deeper as you get further, and you unlock new tools that help you get around more. And overall, it's a good game. I think it's a little bit limited in scope, but it was like the first game that the company made, or at least the main popular one that they made, Image and Form. So I think it was certainly a good game, and I enjoyed it, and I think it is quite iconic now. It was reminiscent of those Flash games of the time that everyone who played them when they were a kid remembers now. You know, that sort of style of game, and I think it's certainly a game that is worth playing, and I enjoyed it quite a lot. But yeah, again, not too difficult, but I think that's for the best. As I've gotten older, I've stopped caring about playing games that are hard just for the sake of being hard, and I'd rather things be difficult because they actually challenge and engage me, rather than just cranking up everything to take a million hits and you die in one. That's not hard, that's just annoying. So, yeah, but I think definitely that was worth playing. Then, finally, after years and years of people who I were friends with back then and we don't even talk now, said to play, well, I played Hollow Knight, okay? Hollow Knight being one of my little brother's, one of his favourite games, or at least a game that he's played quite a lot of. I played that from May the 20th until June the 15th. He will forever be better at the game than I am, and he did a lot more of the endings than I did. But as a game, again, it's a Metroidvania. Very different to SteamWorld Dig, though. There's a lot more movement. It's it's kind of fast-paced, and there's, you know, you use a melee weapon, and you know, there's no, I think there are projectiles, but they're not very good. And you go around as, you're not the Hollow Knight, by the way, but you go around and you do stuff, and you explore, and you get new abilities, and you fight things, and you are, you know, trying to survive. And the game is fairly difficult at times, but it always feels like it's within your control to do stuff about it. Obviously, some of the optional challenges and things that I didn't do sort of push that to the logical extreme, where you start to have to play perfectly, and I by no means would ever try them or play perfectly. But I think that for what I played of it, it was challenging me enough that I had to try, and didn't just get it for free, but wasn't so hard that I lost my wick or like got annoyed with it, okay? But the music's really good. The visual style is striking and interesting, and although it's been done again since by other studios, they were kind of the first ones, like Team Cherry, the ones to make it look like that, and it really sort of popped and looked quite good. And it's another sort of timeless art style. A lot of 2D things, you know, the Symphonies of the Knights of the World and the Hollow Knights of the World, they become timeless because of their graphic style. They will never look old because they are very stylish. And so, in that sense, it's very good. And I played that from May the 20th until June the 15th, so we're already like halfway through the year. And I think that was a very good game. I liked it. None of the games I played this year I didn't actually like, so that's always a nice bonus. Then, another big one. Starting from June 16th until August the 2nd, we played the Thousand Year Door remake. Now again, the Thousand Year Door is a game that I've played probably 3 or 4 times in my life before. And that time all legitimately, because I actually had it on the GameCube. Again, a very good game. The remake changed bits. It changed the visual style, which is the main thing, to look more like Origami King and the other Paper Mario games. And didn't change too much. They added some stuff. They added some super bosses that you didn't fight in the original game, and they added some quality of life things, like quicker partner swapping and stuff like that, which is good. But they didn't ruin the game. The only bad thing about it is it runs at 30 FPS rather than 60, and maybe the Switch 2, which we're going to hear about in April, will make it run at 60 FPS if they patch it to do that. That'd be very cool. And I think that a lot of Switch games, like the Xenoblade Chronicles X's of the world, I'm waiting to play Xenoblade Chronicles 3 on the Switch 2. If it runs better, then I would like to do that, because I've had Xenoblade Chronicles 3 since it's come out, but I've not wanted to play it at 30 or 12 FPS. So, and the same will be true for Xenoblade Chronicles X. But yes, Thousand Year Door Remake, it's the same game. It is a good game. If you liked the original game, you would like this one, besides maybe the frame rate being worse, and it is objectively not as good because of the frame rate, but it's playable. They balanced it so that the 30 FPS window made sense for super guarding and things like that. It is as hard or as easy as the original game is. Changing it doesn't inherently make the game a worse game, it just feels worse, and that is just how it goes. It will feel worse, okay? But that's the Thousand Year Door remake. I enjoyed that a lot. I always like Paper Mario though. Even Sticker Star has redeeming qualities. It's not great, it's not a good game, but it has redeeming stuff about it. I never played Color Splash because I heard that one was just really bad, and I didn't play it on the Wii U. But I played, I not played Origami King, but I watched someone play it all the way through, and that actually seemed quite interesting. But again, I think hopefully the Thousand Year Door remake, if it's sold okay, might let Nintendo know that actually we like turn-based partners, story, interesting, thank you, we want some of that. Not it being old doesn't make it good, it being good makes it good. So we can, if we have more good things, that would be a nice change, okay? And that takes us to August 2nd, okay? Now we're going to go on to SteamWorld Heist. SteamWorld Heist is a sort of side-scrolling tactics game, which is an unusual combination because there aren't that many tactical games that are side-scrolling. But yeah, it is an interesting game, and again, it has its moments of difficulty, and it has good music, and it has interesting characters, and it has a serviceable story if you're interested in that kind of thing. But yeah, it's a game that I really like a lot. I'm looking forward to playing SteamWorld Heist 2 when that eventually comes out. As in, when I actually eventually get to it. It is out. When I eventually get to playing it. I've got to play SteamWorld Build first. But yeah, it's a very good game. I enjoyed it a lot. I think that you can make it a lot harder for yourself if you want to. But the way I played it, I was happy with what I'd played. I thought it was a good enough difficulty for me. I felt like I couldn't just steamroll the missions, but you got abilities that helped you make it a lot easier. I liked the fact that you had character progression and you could specialise to a certain degree. Every character eventually kind of becomes like an amorphous blob of stuff. There'll always be characters that are better at certain things than others, but for the most part, you can get away with using any character, which is helpful. But I do like certain games where you just have the objectively best team and the objectively worst team, and then you challenge yourself to beat the game with just the shit team. And I think that can be interesting. But yeah, as a game, very good game. I liked it. And I look forward to playing Heist 2 when I get to it. And that takes us to August 18th, and so on August 19th we started Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, of course, being a remake of Dark Moon. Dark Moon being a game for the 3DS that I played the first world of, I believe. I think I only got to World 1. And I kind of remember a bit of World 2, the one with the plants. I kind of remember unlocking it, but I don't remember doing much more than unlocking it. So I know for a fact I never got to World 3, put it that way. And the reason why is because it didn't really click with me. It was a different game, and still is a very different game to Luigi's Mansion 1, and different to Luigi's Mansion 3, in the sense that 2 is all level-based, whereas 1 and 3 are one cohesive level that you sort of do stuff in. They break it up into different levels in the sense that, Luigi's Mansion 1 has the third floor section, the basement section, the foyer and the ground floor, and they kind of are different levels, but you can get from one point of the map to the other point without doing much to make it happen, right? Besides the chapter bosses blocking it off. And Luigi's Mansion 3 is much the same. The hotel is one hotel. They all have different floors, which are technically different levels, but you can traverse up and down it in sort of a seamless way eventually. Whereas Luigi's Mansion 2 is definitely just, this is the level 1 map, this is the level 2 map, this is the level 3 map, and they are completely different things. But Luigi's Mansion 2, I played that until September 20th. It is a Good game. I actually like it more than I thought I would. I definitely think it's still my least favourite of the three, but there are actually some things that I think are quite good about it. I like the black light to search for hidden things. I like the ghost designs sort of grew on me. They're still not as cool as the Luigi's Mansion 1 idea, but they did use them again for Luigi's Mansion 3, so clearly that's the design they're going to use moving forward. But I think the Luigi's Mansion 1 ghosts still are just the nicest for me. I like them the most. But yeah, the level design is interesting. It's not overly complicated. It's a little bit hand-holdy and a little bit linear at times, where you can't really explore until you do a very specific thing. And I think the boos are good. Some of the boo puzzles are actually quite hard to find, like the hidden boo. Some of them are completely free, but some of them are quite interesting because they're not completely free. And so I like that a lot. And I like the fact that money, while useful, is not the be-all and end-all of the score. You don't have to perfectly get every bit of money to get a perfect rank. Your time management is good. Your health management is good. The amount of ghosts you get is good. And your money is okay. Then you can still get a 3-star rating, which I liked a lot. Then, from September 21st, we played SteamWorld Dig 2, which we finished in about 2 weeks. So compared to SteamWorld Dig 1, which is 1 week, it's about twice as long. Makes sense. SteamWorld Dig 2 is just SteamWorld Dig 1, but better in every conceivable way. So really, unless you want to know the continuation of the story, and even the story is only loosely connected, SteamWorld Dig 2 is just 1, but better. More freedom of movement, more options, more open world. It's not an open world game, but the world is more open, is what I mean to say. More interesting characters, just more to do, basically. And a little bit harder as well, which is always nice. It's not overly hard, but a little bit harder. And again, the music's good, the gameplay is good, it's fun to run around in, it's good to get treasures, it's nice to have the upgrades, it feels gratifying to actually super clear the maps, to get all the secrets and hidden things that they dot around the map. It's quite cool. And I think as an overall product, it is just the first game, but better. And I think that's fine. I think sometimes game developers for a sequel feel like they need to completely throw everything out the window and then put it back in again, completely changed. And it's just not true. Sometimes iterating on something that's already good and just making all the things about it better is fine for a sequel. Of course, if they're going to do SteamWorld Dig 3 at some point, they might want to change some things around to make it a bit more fresh, but iterating again would also be fine, just making all those things better again, without going too far and making something too big and too cumbersome to make it a bit awkward. You know, you don't want to be so big map that it takes hours to go across. It's not interesting then, it gets a bit boring. But overall, I think a very good game. I enjoyed playing it a lot, and I think that I would play a SteamWorld Dig 3, why not? Then, from October 5th until November the 8th, I played Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. Now, this is an interesting one, because, as people who have heard me speak in my yearly reviews before have said, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom they don't do it for me. I don't think they're Zelda games. I think as open world games, they're fine, but they don't really scratch that itch that an Ocarina of Time or a Twilight Princess or a Wind Waker might, where you go to a dungeon, you get the item, you use that item in the dungeon, and then in future things you might use it a couple of times to unlock something else. You don't really have that in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, beyond the stuff you get in the tutorial dungeon, which you use for the whole game, or tutorial dungeons, I guess, the shrines. And so Echoes of Wisdom is interesting because it's kind of a return back to the old way of doing things. However, you don't get special items, you use the creatures you get to do stuff for you. Almost like a summoner build from a Diablo or something like that. It's an interesting game. I think it's not quite what I want from a Zelda game, but I do think it has its charms and I do think it is interesting. And I like that Nintendo aren't afraid to necessarily do weird shit when so many people are afraid to do weird shit. I think it's interesting, and I think that, you know, as a game, again, not too hard. It's got some hard bits, but it's really not too hard. And it's not overly long, so it doesn't overstay its welcome. I beat it in about a month and 3 days. So it really doesn't feel like a game that sort of expects the world from you, like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom felt like at times, where everything was so long and so big. And I think if we could have that from now on, where, you know, if they're obsessed about doing open world games, okay. But if we can get occasionally this little, teenier Zelda thing that feels more like a Zelda game, I would take that if it came to it. Because we're not going to get Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess again. They've already said, Aonuma said, open world stuff is the way they want to go moving forward. It's not the old style things that they want, because they don't think the players want that. And clearly, because Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom sold so well, to a certain extent they are right, that people are interested in playing those kinds of games more so than the old ones. But I will always like the old ones better. I just will. Even if I'm a Mario person at heart and Zelda's sort of my second favourite, it's still good. They're still great games. And Echoes of Wisdom is good. I like it. It's up there. In terms of the games I've played this year, even outside of recording stuff, I think it's very serviceable and interesting. And I'm sure Hero Mode can be very, very hard if you want it to be hard. But I don't play Zelda to make it hard. I don't care. I'd rather just play it to have a good time. And some games are like that. Finally, in terms of games we finished, because I only count games we finished in this list, we played SteamWorld Quest, which is a card game. Now, card games are games that I don't really play a lot of at all. I've played a bit of Slay the Spire, I've played a bit of Monster Train, I've played a bit of, now, SteamWorld Quest. But card games as a genre aren't something that I'm overly interested in. Why? Just because they aren't sort of games that I feel like I'm very good at or that compelling in and of themselves. But SteamWorld Quest, to be fair, was an RPG, it had a story, and so that's sort of the driving force behind the game. I don't think it nails everything it wanted to do, but I think in terms of a deck building game, I think the gear system is interesting. The fact that you can save up for a mega turn or use sort of okay turns over and over again, I thought was an interesting thing. It's not the sort of thing that I would recommend to everyone to play by any means, because I think it's a niche thing already, being a card game and being an RPG, like two niches at once. But I think that for what it was trying to do, I think it set out and achieved most of what it was trying to do, but not everything. I think that it's certainly a game that I would consider worth playing, but not for absolutely everyone. Okay. Yeah, and that brings us to December 3rd, at which time we started Mario & Luigi Brothership, but I'm not finished with it yet, so I'm not going to count it. We'll talk about that one next year. But yeah, that's it for me. I wanted to say thank you again to everyone who's been watching. I wanted to say that I'm not quitting. I'm finding it harder to find the time to do it, but I'm not giving up the ghost or anything like that. I would like to continue doing it, and as long as people like it, I don't see why I wouldn't keep doing it. Yeah, and that's basically it. Onwards and upwards. I will see you all guys next time when we carry on with Mario & Luigi Brothership. So, see you guys then. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.